Damn, Ingenious made the beat? Yo, welcome to another episode of the Coach Life Podcast Radio. I'm, of course, your host, the Prince of Positivity, Coach Steve. Joined with me, as always, the dime dropper, Coach Luna. How we doing, bro?
Blessed. We survived the snow apocalypse in Houston, so we're here.
True enough. True enough. Sadly, we couldn't donate any salt. We had our own snowstorm here, so kind of needed all that salt. CEO, founder of the Coach Life Podcast and brand about building your brand. Coach Wash, how we doing, Brody?
Man, great, blessed, highly favorite. Yeah, just happy to be here another day, man. Another opportunity to do his will. So, and it will be done.
You know it. You know it. As always, we always have a really deep dive topic, and this will be kind of similar to in a lot of respects where we talk about identity. What does that mean, identity? We're gonna do a quick little unpack of this, but before we get into it, I want to make sure people understand that identity is that's not just who we are, but that's also who our creator sees us as. We'll talk a little bit more about that and kind of dissect that a little bit. Before we jump into that, Coach Luna, we haven't done this in a minute. Definition. What is your definition of identity? And what does that mean to you?
Identity. Identity is an accumulation of people's perception about you and the perception you have about yourself. I think that's one way to kind of look at it. And where things can get sticky is which one you attribute more value to. And if you attribute more value to others' opinions about you, or the opinion you have about yourself, whether it be positive or negative, can have an effect on the overall scope of your identity, and from a world's perspective, for sure.
I love how you said that because you gave again what I would say a vast majority of people feel their identity is in, and it's usually in other people's perception of who they are, as opposed to who they really are or who they've been called to be that they may or may not have accepted just yet.
And because you can't, as a person who has gone through his own identity crisis, you can't identify who you're called to be if you're not consistently in his word and abiding to the conviction that you feel when you read certain characteristics of how you're supposed to identify.
Mm-hmm.
And once you start feeling that level of conviction, the actions that come thereof helps start trying to build that true identity of who you're supposed to be.
Coach, you're going down this rabbit hole right now, and I want you to put a pin in the conviction part because we're gonna circle back to that one because that's very important. Coach Wash, definition of identity. How do you see identity, and what does that mean to you?
Per usual, Coach Luna stole it all. So I'm trying to figure out what I can actually add to this definition. It is who you are, what you are, to yourself and how others perceive you. And like he said, it's a matter of how much stock you putting into the outside perception versus your internal perception. And back to what he was saying about the conviction, your identity, what it's supposed to be, and whatever you putting your stock into can be two different things. Now,
Agreed.
yeah, so that conviction and also, and being identified as a child of God essentially is the identity you should be holding. But with that, before you can get to that, there's a lot of learning. And back to the pod we had before, it's a lot of unlearning that you got to do as a natural born sinner and exposure to the world, the devil's playground. You got to fight off a lot of demons. So who you are is a matter of what you pour into, what you invest into.
Because to add to that definition, because we're both on the same plane, a lot of your identity could also come from what you do.
Yeah. Your artist, your teacher, your occupation can be how you are identified as. Right.
I see those gears moving, Coach Steve. What you got?
It's I got a lot moving in that direction because it's funny when we start talking about identity and just hearing you guys' definition of identity, it seems like self-awareness and purpose is the bridge. Identity is that bridge between self-awareness and purpose.
Your
Like,
true identity.
correct. Like,
I like that.
and I want to kind of dissect that a little bit more. When we talk about being self-aware and that pen that we just talked about a few minutes ago, right?
Take that out.
Let's take that out right now. So we're gonna talk. Let's go back to that. And we started talking about the conviction piece of it. We started talking about the self-awareness piece. I know all of us have been in this boat. I know for a fact, I can raise my hand 30,000 times and say I've been in this boat where you're doing something that you know that you shouldn't be doing, and that little voice starts talking to you, telling you, "Hey, what you doing? You know you're not supposed to be doing this, right? You know you said you were gonna do better, right? You know this. You said that you were gonna stop doing this, right?" Like that little voice, that little conviction that you have, it's you being self-aware of what you're doing right now, and that's not in your true calling. I'll give you a perfect example of that. I Again, like most people, I dabble here and there with drinking, but I never really had like a pull, I guess you can say, to drink. Like there was a point in time in my life where I was drinking more than I should have, but I knew that that wasn't me, if that makes sense. Like going to go and drink to me was almost like some people say, "Oh, I only drink socially." That was me at one point in time, but then it was, well, kind of what you said in one of our earlier pods, Coach Luna, to have fun with the go drink, right? You just equate those two to being those are equal. If I want to have fun, I need to drink, right? So that's what we did. And every single time just didn't feel like fulfilled. Didn't feel like, there was a purpose there. Like what am I doing this for? It almost got like, and Coach Lloyd will tell you this, like I can handle my alcohol very well. Very, very well.
Or
Or at
seller.
least used to, right? At least used
Yeah.
to. There was points and times where me and Coach Wash would be at, little parties or whatever, and I would have, we'll use Kenny as an example. Shout out Kenny. Um, but we'll use Kenny as an example, and Kenny would be like, "Oh, I'll drink you all under the table." And in 30, 40 minutes, Kenny's
Oh,
feeling good, and we're sitting there like, I just drank 3 glasses of water. Again, not really getting that fulfilled sense of whatever it is you're supposed to have when you're drinking, right? Or what some people have when they're drinking, that fulfilledness, which I'm sure most of us don't have when we are drinking. We have a sense of it, but that's not necessarily how we're actually feeling, right? So I struggle with that, with trying to find myself in that particular purpose, to the point now where it's like, don't have that drink, like you said, Luna, to equate fun there anymore. Like, we can drink water or lemonade and tea and still have the same outing that we had before. What is something for you guys that is, I guess, not giving you the sense of purpose or giving you the sense of self identity that you have, that you were trying to feel some kind of way, kind of like the drinking, the example I gave with drinking? Is there something that you guys have struggled with in your past that is, or even in your current situation right now, that has stopped you from finding the true identity, your true identity?
Shit, cause mine was drinking and going out. 1,000,000%. And my wife could sit here and say the exact same thing about me. Um, and kind of like how you said you never felt the pull. Well, I was getting yanked.
And
I
that's
was
different,
always
right?
getting pulled. I
That's
was
that's
always
crazy.
feeling pulled to want to drink and go out, to the point where we had Shelby on here before, and Shelby said, "Bro, you have FOMO, fear of missing out." And I'm like, and I looked at him crazy because I'm like, "Bro, you be going out with me." You know what I'm saying? But the part that got me was that he said that unabated while my wife was telling me the same thing.
Mm,
So I'm getting it in both ears. So to me, that's me, bro. I don't, even then, I still never chalk up coincidences as something as just like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh,
he
it's just
talking
by
to you.
chance. Right. You know what I'm saying? So I would, that caused me to, have a little self reflection. And, you know, as that is already on me and I'm reading and I come across the passages where it's talking about being a drunkard, and how a drunkard will not inherit the kingdom. And I'm like, okay, what is a drunkard? What does it mean to be a drunkard? Because of course we're gonna always find caveats like, well, if I only drink once a week, does that really make me a drunkard? And a drunkard is anything and to amount where it makes you move out of your character. And I'm like, ooh, if that's the case, I never drink just to say I had a couple of drinks. Every time I've drank, I've gotten to the point where I'm out of my character. I'm no longer the
Mm,
person, I'm no longer my identity. The amount
mm.
of times that I've woken up and someone said, "Man, do you remember what you said?" No. Do you even remember what you did? Like, no. And some people that have gotten so used to me being that way would be like, "Bro, he drunk again." You know what I'm saying? And it got to a point where I didn't like that um assumption that every time you see me in a social setting, you knew that I was either drunk or about to be.
Mm.
And I got tired of wanting to be, I got tired of being identified by that. So much to the point where I had to start taking off the garments of my identity with that. So, what did that require me to do? That required me to kind of change the things and the places of where I was spending my time, because I couldn't handle going to those places without having to feel like I needed a drink. So, if I'm going to help myself, I need to know exactly where these sources of um, places to where I confide to want to urge to drink alcohol. I got to pull myself from those situations. And the only way I can build more strength and feeling confident with doing that is building myself more in confidence with reading the Bible and reading his scriptures and letting him fill my spirit, because, you know, 2 years later of having this epiphany, I'm now at a point where I can comfortably say I've had only drank in 3 occasions in the past 5 months. And for me to say that comfortably is like night and day, literally, from the person I was in 2023 when we first started having this pod to the person that it's not even close, bro. And I 1000% only attribute that to the Holy Spirit. Because I've tried this before. I've tried this a countless amount of times before because I got tired of hurting people and I got tired of having this like umbrella over me of, hey, you did this when you were drunk. You did this. Like I didn't want to leave that trail of catastrophe. And then I would just go right back to it. No, I did a whole month, no hard liquor. I drank beer. I did wine. Oh, I did this. And it was just like, no, bro, that's not good enough. Like, that's just putting duct tape on the Titanic after it hit the glacier. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not doing anything. Like, we gotta patch this thing up completely.
Right.
We gotta move this whole identity, ship that whole thing out, and bring in this whole new. We gotta completely remodel the kitchen. You know what I'm saying? And gut it.
Coach, you said something, again, it goes back to something you said earlier when we started talking about the definition of, of identity, is that you said people looked at me as either I'm going to be drunk or I am drunk. There was already a label that was put on you before anything even happened. And I think a lot of people obviously have a lot of issues with labels being placed on them for people that when people don't fully know who you are, or in some cases, in most cases, especially in mine, and I know you said it in yours, and I know Coach Wash can agree with this as well, especially when we don't fully know ourselves. It's easy for others to put labels on you when you don't really know who you are.
Bingo. And how can you fault people for having that opinion if you've never shown otherwise?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like I told, like I almost sound like a broken record, but it sometimes requires that for that message to get home. How do you actually show improvement? You have to show it. You have to do it. You have to be it. You have to every single day tend to that garden. And until you do that, until you understand the significance of tending to your garden every single day, you're not going to be able to understand when those weeds get in there and how those weeds got in there because you're not checking that garden every single day. Mm-hmm. A weed can start with simple as, oh man, I found this gluten-free beer that's 5% alcohol and it's got none of this, blah blah blah. It's still alcohol, and just because it's gluten-free and it may not go ahead and mess up with your stomach, it's still going to have the same effect that alcohol had, period, because alcohol is alcohol. And we can go ahead and substitute the word alcohol and say sugar, or anything, substitute it and say whatever the case may be. Every single one of us have that one little thing that's keeping us from having the ability to find the attributes of our true identity. It's really keeping us from our greater selves. As that's the big buzzword, nowadays, is my greater self. Your greater self is who you identify as in Christ. That is who your greater self is. And until we grasp that concept, we're going to always fall into these different ways and ideologies. I did it all, man. There's nothing new under the sun. This is the only way that it has legitimately worked in my life. And I can't sit here and try to coin it to anything else, because then that would be blaspheme, because I know exactly what it was for me. You know what I'm saying? And I know what it constantly is every single day, and I'm grateful for it.
Coach Wash, what is what's one of those things for you that is pulled you away from your identity or what you thought was part of your identity, which is either no longer part of it or has changed significantly for you?
Um, to kind of stay in the same lane, talking about like external factors as far as what other people can see. Um, yeah, I think the alcohol is there, but I was always kind of low key, to be honest. You know, I definitely, I wouldn't say I portrayed a false identity, but people didn't fully see everything, only a select few. So honestly, a majority of the people that may have grew up around me at some point during my childhood or even my early adulthood only seen a little bit. So yeah, the drinking was probably the most evident for whoever you were. You know, everybody saw that. So that was something I had to get away from. Bad coping mechanism. Definitely would kill a bottle at a time. You already know, top to bottom. Uh, Not even long ago. I remember one time when I was like going live sometimes producing. I'll go live sometimes on IG and be producing. And it was a time like I killed a whole bottle on a live session making beats and didn't even realize it. Like opened it to start the live, kept pouring up little by little. And I had killed a whole bottle of tequila myself, unfazed. Now you probably
Same
heard it.
moment.
You probably heard a little bit when I was talking, but I
They noticed it.
yeah, they definitely picked up on it. And they seen the levels of the bottle dropping too. What was you gonna say, Lou?
No, I was gonna say, I don't want somebody to listen to this pod and think that, because people who have ears, they're gonna hear what they want to hear. We're not saying cut out alcohol because it's bad for you. We're saying cut out anything that is keeping you from your true identity.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
for us as a whole, us as Coach Life Podcast Radio, that is one attribute that we have been able to identify that, for us as how we've lived our lives, we can identify as that one thing that has. And, what's a crazy statistic, if we want to be honest, but for a lot of people, majority of people, I haven't met anybody that can just fully go ahead and go as hard as they can go and feel as normal as they feel and have nothing repercussion, whether it's a physical repercussion or some type of, or you remember you did this or said this. I've yet to meet one that has conquered alcohol. So let's just keep it a buck when it comes to a lot of things.
yeah.
Just saying.
There's AA groups out there because people can't recover by themselves
Yeah.
from alcohol. So there should be something said there. And again, I'm so glad you prefaced that, Luna, because we do need to make sure that everybody understands like this ain't just on an alcohol tip, right? It could be a
Mm-hmm.
person. It could be a
Oh, it's
person.
the yeah. Could be a
There,
person,
yep.
other devices. We ain't go. I mean, we can go ahead and say we used to smoke like chimneys. Uh, just hooked on things we know we ain't supposed to be hooked on, and you know it's a cover for real. Um, I want to be more revealing. I now we talked about things that everybody's able to see. Like I said, I don't want to say I was necessarily secretive, but I always just been a private to myself person and very selective of who I kept around me and who was exposed to certain things. But
Hmm.
as a child, like internally, in certain situations, uh, I was very violent. A lot of people that know that I was very violent. Like my mindset was violent. Now, not in a, is worse to me. It wasn't a sense of identity as it, most boys growing up try to, you know, trying to show their masculinity, picking fights and, just turning up easy. That wasn't me. I was violent in the worst way. I didn't turn up easy. But I definitely said, if you start something, I'm gonna finish it. And I probably would have went way further than what you was
You
ready
should
to
have.
do. Yeah. So, but yeah, my thoughts, that's something I battle with a lot. Like, talk about internal identity. Like, if I put it all out on the street, they'd be like, then your perception of me will probably change.
Right.
Coach, can you embellish on that a little bit? That internal identity. What is that? Can you identify what your internal identity? What does that look like?
What you
Not
think of
you in
yourself.
particular.
Yeah.
What not yeah, yeah.
What anybody thinks of themselves, those people that beat themselves up, you could have some of the finest people in the world. Internally, they feel ugly. They may think they're ugly. You may identify as an ugly person, but nobody else sees that. You got something you battling with in your mind, which is the worst place, and it's how you perceive yourself. And it's not until we get grounded in, which we'll get to, we get grounded in God, where you start to find peace in those things, and you start to battle those negative thoughts, those intrusive thoughts, those demonic thoughts. Is when you start to conquer a lot of these things that are negative perceptions of ourselves, or what other people may perceive of us. It may not be true neither. And so with that grounding and knowing who you are in God, then you know what your purpose is, and nobody can tell you different. Nobody can tell you different at that point when you're not lost anymore. You're not trying to figure it out. Because I remember drowning out a lot of what I knew I was supposed to do. I would even say part of my identity was rebellious internally. I would say I was rebellious in multiple points, not just childhood. Not even many years ago in my adulthood, I could say just rebelling against the call, what I know I'm supposed to do.
Man.
That's crazy that you're saying that, man, because like I'm just feeling it. It's like the more you and I know this has happened to you, this is exactly what happened to you. The more you kept reading his word, we know the effect of reading. And the more, if I'm reading it, I'm seeing it. If I'm speaking it, I'm hearing it. My senses are all involved. You can't read those words and not be transformed, because it cleans out and clears all the clutter and all the crap. It cleans house by itself.
Yep.
That's why it's so important to actually read it daily, because it's hard to have those words come in and still have all that rebellion and everything in you. That's why they bank on us not to read our word,
Yeah.
and only go get it on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Because the 6 out of the other 7 go to the enemy, because you don't know who you are.
And really, he got all 7, because on the 7th day, you doing your
You only
best
there for
act,
2 hours.
and you acting.
Mm-hmm. You only there invested for those 2 hours. That's why, man, I love when our co-pastor at our school, not our school, at our church, he talked about Sunday to Sunday, and how we're supposed to be in this walk every single day. And the part that got me, that I love, bro, was he was like, you're not going to be perfect, but you try to identify yourself as much as you can with Christ-like characteristics every single day, and you apply those every single day, and you will naturally transform your identity, and you won't be the person that you were before. And people that can't grasp that concept will look at you like, bro, what in the world? It's like,
how are you doing that?
It's not a magic trick. It's in the word. It literally says these things, that if I invite him into me, he will do everything. So do that.
So what you're saying, Coach Luna, is that you need to learn how to follow directions.
You
Yeah.
have to be a student. There's a teacher. For every teacher, a teacher is not significant without students.
Oh man.
Bar.
Remember that was bars. Again, pick that $38 up that you just dropped right now.
But that,
but you're
but Coach,
100% right.
a teacher is not significant without his students, because we, as a student, we go out and we show the attributes of the things that we're learning. And as a result, that shows the significance of the teacher. I mean, who taught you that? What's teaching? Who taught you those things? Or where are you getting this basis from? Like, why are you such a good person? Or why is this person this way? Or why does that person continually get blessed? Or why this? Why that? Why that?
Reasons.
It's as simple as obedience. And you know, and we got to be extremely careful with just attaching worldly possessions and worldly blessings with saying that person is blessed. Because as Wise has said it before, the devil will bless you too. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Know the word too.
yeah, he knows his
Because
pawns. He knows exactly who to go
he
for.
he was going quote for quote with Jesus.
With Jesus. And Jesus said, no, that's not what the word said.
Yeah, he was stating the word, but taking it out of context and flipping it. And that's exactly what the
Saying-
devil will do. He'll make it
using
appear
it
to be
for
something
his
of God.
benefit.
That's
the
word. No, that's not what the word says. I don't care about what everything else going. That's not what the word says. That's not what it says.
It's
My
easy to
identity,
be deceived.
how I'm supposed to identify how my identity is, that's not how everything else or what people perceive me as. That's not what I'm supposed to be. It tells me what I'm supposed to be in here. It tells me the characteristics I'm supposed to walk alike, speak like, act like.
You know what's interesting? One key point that you said, and people always say it, but I don't think people understand the significance and the difference between the transformation. When you hear that we're not going to be perfect, and I think people get that misconstrued and what that really means. We're not going to be perfect, but that don't give you a pass to be a premeditated murderer still.
Touch on that, Coach.
If
Touch
you
on that.
Keep going, bro.
so not literally murder, it could be. I don't know who I'm talking to, but anytime you lead somebody down the wrong path, their blood is on your hands. If you a child of God and you not reflecting God and being an example of what they need to go after, their blood is on your hands. The funny thing is, my pastor just talked about it this weekend, and he was like, man, he had this gut punch when he was in college. Things weren't going his way. He said he still was in his Bible, though, but he definitely wasn't acting like what he was reading. And so his roommate, he was like probably an atheist, you know, if he had to guess. He definitely wasn't a believer, though. And so he looks at him one night, he said, what you reading? And so my pastor said, I'm reading my Bible. And he said, my pastor was like, man, I'm thinking to myself, oh, he's curious, you know, this is my opportunity. And then, but it didn't go that way. He said, why you reading that? He said, I don't know. You know, you look like me. You act like me. I don't really see a difference in our lives. So I don't think I need that. So here he is thinking because he's just reading the Bible and going through this routine that he in the right place. But he quickly learned by somebody that's a non-believer that he was in the wrong place because the non-believer said, your life looked like mine. And that's when reality hit. So I want to say, like, no, we not perfect. Like, my identity as being rebellious is not the same today. My lack of perfection isn't rebellion. My lack of perfection is what I tell you, Steve, a mistake is I forgot to carry the one. That's a mistake. I miscalculated. You know what I'm saying? But if you calculate it, if you sinning in a calculated fashion, well, you got the answer wrong on purpose. There's a difference between the two.
Mm-hmm.
So not being perfect means you apply. You don't just know, you have to actually apply. And if you practice in that activity, like for example, my conviction may cause me to, I may lie. Like that's the most likely accident I may have. But I catch it now. And I now is I'm
Conviction.
repenting and immediately in prayer for some small. And it may have started off just talking in a joking manner and went too far. And it's like, and the joke may not be a lie, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah.
In conversation, it could end up happening. And it's like you can't be like, that wasn't true. Forgive me. Father, forgive me. Little stuff like that happen. You're not going to the bar and getting drunk anymore. That's the difference. You know what I'm saying? It starts to become small things. You catch it immediately and you start self-correcting. That's the God in you. So I wanted to address that because that had been on my heart. And I was like, when my pastor said, and I'm like, dang, what have I looked like to so many people, especially in that long phase of rebellion when I was looking nothing like God, when I was out here committing premeditated murder. You know what I'm saying? Like how many people that I
Not
can't,
physically, not
Yeah,
physically
yeah. No,
now.
we get
not
what it. We
physically,
get it, man.
I just
but
don't
how
want to get
many
them locked up now.
they gotta prove it. But no, not physically. They were like, Coach, come on now. But nah, but how many people have I touched and been around and knew better? It's a difference when you ignorant. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like I done had somebody tell me recently, man, I had never studied the Bible like this before. I never dove deep in the Bible like this before. Like that means I have led someone into studying. That's my job. But how many people did I lead the other direction and show a bad example? Kind of like my pastor said. Well, you saying you doing this and you here, and I may even get them to come to church, but if they see me cutting up the other 6 days of the week, they're gonna be like, oh, I pulled up Sunday. That's what Lloyd does.
Check the box.
Check the box.
And
And the others,
that's gonna
yeah,
be counted held. That's gonna be held against you.
that's counted against me. I gotta answer that on Judgment Day. And every day I thank God today, like a prayer I have every morning for myself. God, thank you for allowing me another day to glorify you, another opportunity to receive correction and do your will. Because I could have died during that period where I was saying no, and there would have been lights out for me. I've
I
been
would have had the answer to
downstairs.
that.
Yeah, I've been downstairs for certain. And a lot of people realize you don't know when your light's gonna get cut off.
Bingo.
If it happens to happen because you thought you had time to flip the script later, well, you out of luck.
Yo, Mark Twain said this. This is a quote from Mark Twain. The two most important days that you have in your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why.
Mm.
Mm.
So when you start talking about purpose and you start talking about the reason why you are doing or guided in a direction to do something that calls you to a higher purpose, I'll give you again, we talked about this last week with the GPS, right? I told you I went to a job site and literally from where my hotel was to where the job was is 2 turns. I turned 6 times without the GPS. Why? Because I didn't think I needed the GPS because it's only 2 streets. I could figure that out until I got lost. Until I got lost. And then I turned the GPS back on and then found out it's right behind me. I'll give you another example. I just bought some IKEA furniture. You know how to give you that Lego bag of parts? I know how to build a shelf. What I need this bag of parts for? I know how to put a shelf together. I know how boards supposed to go together.
Put the board upside down.
Bro, I had to take the whole thing apart because you put in one board the wrong way and that just threw off everything else because you don't want to
Man,
read the directions.
you
Because
gotta
you don't
hope
want to
that
follow
cheap particle
directions.
board don't break when
Oh,
you.
it did, bro. It did. We had
I
to,
know it.
we had to rig some stuff
IKEA.
together, bro. So it is what it is.
I already know what it is.
But that's the point, right? Like we have direction, you have clear guidelines, you have direction, you have a step-by-step guide on how to do something, and you decide to go left because you know better. until you don't.
Coach, can you repeat that Mark Twain quote one more time?
The two most important days that you have in your life are the day you're born and then the day you find out why.
So I want to talk about that a little bit. The ROI is not gauged on the significance of how much we believe. And what I mean by that is I can't sit here and try to put a number or try to put a goal to, if I affect 1 million people, my why has been fulfilled.
Right.
I can't do that. My why can just be as simple as my identity being as close to Christ-like as I can possibly be every single day. And as a result of that, like Coach Wise said, I helped one person decide to open up that book again. Because let's reverse 10, 15 minutes ago. The second you start letting those words get back into your spirit, your identity in the mirror starts to become a lot more clear. It's like what Wesley Huff said the other day on the Joe Rogan podcast. He said, we don't use the word as a mirror and wash ourselves with the mirror. We'll just get dirty again. We wash ourselves with the word, because the word shows me that I'm dirty and it shows that I need a savior. So therefore, I yearn for this relationship and I spend time here. And as a result, those things get coming back to me. And the more it comes back to me and I'm able to bear this fruit, the more fruitful everybody else is. It's again, it's like I said, it's simple, but it's so complex because it requires you to say no to the things that I most want.
Yeah. You know, the crazy thing is, Coach, about that, going back to the rebellion, you know, I don't want to go down the list of the 10 commandments, and that ain't even all our commandments, but even thinking about them, like, dang, how many of these I didn't hit? Lord, forgive me. Lord, forgive me. But the crazy thing is, and all that running and chasing what you want, everybody that get it ain't happy. And even if it's something crazy, when they get there, they ain't happy. Some things just really start to like really stick out to me the most. Like I was listening to some OGs. I've been saying this more, and we don't talk about relationships on this pod as we will always state, but just clips of some people that like to discuss relationships on their pods. Like some older gentlemen saying like, it's crazy because you hit them streets so much and it's like ain't enough box in the world to satisfy you. And it is, you get older and you just be like, what was I doing? Like that didn't, and it don't
Do
mean nothing
anything.
to you, no. It don't mean nothing to you. And the people I see that find peace, that truly dive into God and actually follow his instructions and deny their flesh, they have this aha, these epiphanies, this joy. Who you just post, Redman, out of all people, we grew up big Method Man Redman fans. I couldn't believe this man said he was celibate for two plus
Two and a
years.
half years.
2.5 years. Redman?
Yep. That's
What? How
if you would
high?
have heard him in the beginning, that's an impossible feat for him.
Man. And the way he spoke about how it changed him doing that. What else he said he gave up during that time?
He
Weed.
gave up weed. Yep. He said he
Redman.
stopped smoking. He said he stopped having sex. And he said he
Ha
stopped drinking and stopped going out. He said all of it was just there was this massive fast that he did for 2.5 years.
Yo, I ain't never heard Redman in any interview prior to speak about how filled he was with eliminating things. You know what I'm saying? And that's the crazy thing. Like I started like really paying attention to all these small things in the word. And this a lot of this came with talking to my daughter too, and talking about identity. And she 14, and you know, this teenage girl, you already know what time it is. And it's just like you ain't gonna find that outside.
Mm.
And you know, she grew up in a faith-based house. So, you know, it's heavy on both sides. But you know, that's when you got to be honest with your children. You got to have real conversations about your own struggles and be like, I'm gonna tell you where it really cleaned up. Everything you wondering about or you curious about, I done it. I can tell you for certain, you're not gonna be fulfilled in that. And I only can hope that you can learn this sooner than later through listening to not just me, but you know, they blessed to have I got a pretty big village. My last name Washington, so y'all should know. But aside from that, the bloodline is crazy. I can go down the other list of the last names that's tied to them. But I'm like, man, you so fortunate and blessed. Like you have a whole lot of interceding prayer happening on your behalf at all times that you don't even know about.
Mhm.
I'm here because of. I'm here because of your uncle here because of. So many people are here because of it. So many people that have been through the fire, that intercede in prayer, they are here because of it. And it took for them to find their identity in Christ to really be fulfilled. No one speaks highly about all the crap we be chasing and saying that we desire. They don't, because a lot of times it come with death. It come with death. And that's in the fleshly realm and after death. They held back. And
100%.
it come with illness, whether you drinking, smoking, having an obscene amount of sex, protected, unprotected, anything can happen. You having children that you didn't plan for. Now we want to talk about curses. Like everything that comes from not following the rules is usually problematic.
Mm.
But yet everybody try to justify it. And we didn't all been there, but it's like when you come out of it, it's like I can't really justify it.
It's like when I tried to put that shelf together, bro. Like I tried to do it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it my way. I'm gonna do it the fast way. My way is gonna be much faster than reading
And
this.
it ended up being much slower. Now you got a rigged piece of
Yep. And I gotta
furniture,
redo the furniture right now.
you know.
See, coach, but let's talk about that. That picture of what was the guide, the instruction already came with the completed picture of what it was supposed to be.
Yep.
But you needed to follow the directions, follow and do the instructions so that you can become, so that product that you bought can be ultimately what it was supposed to be.
Right.
There's a lot in that, man. Like,
But here's
a
the
lot
other
of us,
thing,
a lot of us do exactly what you did in our own lives.
You know what's
Yeah.
funny? You know,
We
I
do our
want
own thing.
absolutely. I want to preface this too. Let's also add on the fact of this because as you're saying that, Coach Luna, I'm thinking about how we're using it right now. I'm not using it for the purpose of what I bought it for because it's messed up now because I didn't follow directions in the beginning.
So
Like
you had to make it work for whatever it is
for
now.
whatever it is now, but that's not the purpose of what we bought it for. Now I have to use it for something else because it's not the way that it should be because I didn't
But
follow directions from go.
hold on, coach. But it's still useful and it's still redeemable.
Absolutely.
Ooh,
Absolutely.
what
Absolutely.
what does that say about us? We're redeemable.
There you
We're
go.
still useful
While we here.
while we're here. Paul, I want everybody to dive into Romans and learn about Paul. If you can learn
OG.
any
That's the
if
boy.
you can learn about any apostles, Please learn about
He
Paul.
be the
The
first one.
man
Paul's the one.
literally persecuted Christians,
Yeah.
killed Christians,
Yeah.
and will say in the Bible, I am the most wretched man.
Yeah.
And he said, if God can save me, if Jesus Christ can save and change me, I promise you, he can
Do that
save
for
and
you.
change you.
Yep.
No matter how messed up of a product that you may be at this point. Once I get this word in, I'm no longer that person. My identity has changed. And he talks about that in Romans. He talks about that in Galatians. He talks about that in Ephesians.
Mm-hmm.
You're no longer that person. So therefore, since my identity has changed, I have to be the person that I am now being called to be.
And you
Obedience.
Yep.
He was obedient once he knew. He was
He
obedient.
literally, man, I just love how he stood out in front of everybody and said, I'm not going to change what I believe in because y'all don't want to believe it. I seen it in my own life. I believe it. I
Yep.
breathed it. I'm now speaking it. Do whatever y'all want. I'm not changing my mind.
Yeah.
And there's power behind that, bro, because he felt that same exact way for persecuting these people at
The other
one
way.
point. He
On the
was
other
that
side.
passionate on the other side.
Yep.
And before he passed, he said, no, I'm this passionate about everything that I was against at one point. And there's so much in that, bro.
It's a
There's
lot
so
in that.
much in that, bro.
It's a lot in that. And
Yeah.
Coach Lloyd, Coach Walsh, you said this a few minutes ago about living in that purpose and being happier when you are living in that purpose. And
Yeah.
again, it's funny because when we talk about Paul, the privilege that he had was to finally find his purpose and how much happier he was because of it.
The student was able to become the teacher.
Right?
Yep.
And everything that we have done in our lives, when we reconcile our identity and we become new, we now have that ability to go ahead and be the student turned teacher to keep people from going and having to go through the same exact things that we went through. And that's why we're so passionate as coaches and teachers and whatever roles we end up being in. We're so passionate about having these conversations because there's so much power in people seeing, because that seeing leads to believing. Faith is things, believing in things seen and unseen, right? But our humanity wraps Christianity and wraps this Christ figure. We wrap it into the identity of the people that we see that identify themselves as Christians. So if we want to have that impact, we have to be as close to Christ-like as we can humanly be, because that is what leads people to finding that true identity.
I love that you said that. I have to ask this question now. And I think you're going to know where I'm going with this one. For those individuals that have found their purpose or what they perceive as their purpose, and everything is going well, they have faith. They have faith. They believe they believe in God, they believe in, in Jesus Christ, they believe in the word, right? And then something happens to take all of those good things, those worldly things away from them. That person could go one or two ways, right? Why did this get taken from me?
Job.
Why is this taken from me? Why do I have to suffer? Why do I have to go through? Why? Or they can go the other way and say, this happened to me. There's a reason for this happening to me.
Also, Joe,
Mm-hmm. later.
It took a second, right? It took a second for him to understand the reasons why things were happening to him, because that is, again, all part of the master plan, right?
Part of his teaching. It's part of
Part
his
of
lesson.
exactly, exactly. There are so many people out there that feel like things are going good, and then something's taken from them, or what they perceive as something taken from them.
There
And
you go.
I want to challenge those individuals that are listening to this podcast that know us. Um, those things that are taken from you, they may be taken from you for a reason. You wouldn't let a baby play with a knife, would you?
No.
Of course not. We would take those things away from them, right? Even though they may have having a great time with that knife. It's shiny. It does stuff that they never seen before, but you wouldn't let a baby just run around with a knife. We we're gonna take that away from you. That's dangerous. Does the baby understand that? Does the baby know that? No, you're taking something away from me that I want. Key word is that you want. What does he want? I think that's the shift that a lot of us end up getting to. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's easier for some of us that have gone along in their faith for quite some time. It's easier for us to see the small wins. Like Coach Wash said a few minutes ago, I told a lie, but I unintentionally told this lie. And the moment I did it, I immediately said, "Oh, forgive me, God. I again not try help get this out of me, right? Help
And in
help
times
remove
past,
this."
how hard was it to lie?
It was light work.
No problem.
It was light work.
My homeboy Charles, bro, he always says his wife had this saying, and she got it from her mom. Is God saves nothing but fools and babies.
Mm.
And bro, when he told me that, bro, I literally like, pow, bro, that hit me across the head, and I just sat there and I thought about it, every character that I read about, and myself too, and I was like, I was a fool.
Yeah.
We were all fools.
Yeah. What
God
I always
saves
say,
no one but fools and babies.
say you
But
either
once
being
a fool,
foolish or being wise.
Identified that he was once a fool, you can no longer be a fool. And that requires the shifting of the mindset of everything that I identify myself with. How tired are you going to be identified with the things that you don't like? What characteristics and what negative attributes are you feeling convicted with that you like, man, I don't want to be remembered like that, bro?
Man.
We've seen accidents happen. We literally know that something can happen within the next however many whatever time frame, because I don't want to put that out in the air, but it's reality. It's called an accident, not because it was done on purpose. It might have been done for a purpose that we can't see, but an accident is an accident. And for that reason solely, should be enough fear to drive home the message of, I can't continue to live the way that I've always lived. I can't just continue to live just for me. There's more purpose in life than just myself. And how does that look? How does that look? What does it look like? Read. Dive into his word. It will be revealed to you. You may already be in the field, but he needs you to just shift it this way. Like I said, the impact that you're supposed to have is not going to be one that you can identify with, because it's what he wants. So you're not going to know that. There's no way you can know the divine calculation of why. That's why we have this pod, because we're trying to help within the conversation figure out our own whys. And with that, it's just that constant revelation of every single day, diving more and more and more. Every person that I've listened to that have read the Bible more and more than I have, they all say the same thing. I get a new revelation every day. As much as I've read it, as many times I may have heard certain verses, I get a new revelation every single day. And that's beauty in that. No other book can do that. You read The Alchemist, you read The Alchemist. You know what I'm saying? You read the 48 Laws of Power, you read the 48 Laws of Power. You know what I'm saying? Every other book, once you read it, you've read it. But man, this one is just so much. So much, man. And what it does to you, no other book can do that. You want to know what your identity is? It's in here. This is where your identity is. And I had to learn that. I had to relearn that. Because I tried to go ahead and make my identity what I wanted it to be. I'm going to make y'all perceive me how I want y'all to perceive me. And that may have me trying to make y'all see me the way I want y'all to see me was detrimental to me. And I didn't realize that because I was feeding myself everything that was not fortifying. And the roots of my tree were giving out bad fruit. It looked shiny. The tree looked good. Everything looked healthy. But the roots were rotten. The core of my apples, the core of my fruits, when you bit into it, it was supposed to be sweet, but it was sour. And once I knew that about myself, that conviction, bro, I was like, nah, man. I don't want to go down and be remembered as the person who, in some people's eyes, I was a really good person. In other people's eyes, I was this. I was like, how about this? Let's wipe that whole thing clean. I don't care about what anybody says. The only thing I care about is what I know is going on up there. And that part was the one that really got me to say, well, hey, man, you got work to do, brother. Mm-hmm. Not going out and just giving stuff to the homeless. Not that type of work. This work. Open heart surgery. Real open heart surgery. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. No needles, none of that. He's a surgeon. That's where you need that transformation. That's what that identity is.
I was going to ask you to give me your closing thoughts on this one, bro, but I think you hit the nail on the head there.
I don't think I got anything else to give after that one, Coach.
After that, you gave it all right there. You summed it up great because, again, I want to preface something that you said that's very, very important. If you didn't take anything else away from anything that we touched on today, know that identity isn't fixed. It involves you to be able to grow, not just in your faith, but in your knowledge, your physical, your self-care. So don't let your circumstances or others define you. This is your opportunity now, especially with identity, to keep rediscovering yourself. Starting to figure out exactly, removing some of those things that have been in the way to stop you from being the true self that you really need to be, or that you really want to be.
It's like what the prophet Isaiah wrote. He said, God will take away the heart of stone and give you the heart of flesh.
Yep. Yeah, we say it almost every pod.
Once you know what that means, man. Oh, man, once you know what that means.
It opens up everything for you. Everything for you. And it's funny because we say this in every pod. We say this is the brand about building your brand. It's the same thing with identity. This is your opportunity to build. That's your brand. So build your brand. But when you're building your brand, just know the types of material that you need to build that house. Don't build it out of sticks. Don't build it out of hay. You got to build it out of brick. And that requires work.
It also requires picking the right foundation.
That's right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
When you're a child of God, you work for the #1 network marketing company. Y'all don't understand what that means. You all
Number
work
one
for each other.
contractor.
We all hustling the same work for those that don't know. We all working for God, and we all benefiting from God. I do have something.
I was gonna say, if you're gonna have to make me tell you, this is your time right now.
Oh man. Shout out God. Yo, I gotta use my gifts.
I was gonna say because I heard some snippets of this over the weekend. If you don't share something, bro, we gonna come to your house.
I've been loading up. So we're gonna go back to these days. I'm a better man. Let me tell you something. These Jacob jewels, they come from God. This wisdom learned came with battle scars. When I broke the rules, I was falling hard. I was gambling life like I'm pulling cards. Ran from work. I can't be a fraud. I got to play the lane. Can't take a charge. We ain't the same. You need a bodyguard. We all the church, so my body hard. Point to wings. Got to play our parts. I said point to wings. It'll take us far. Kick your habits like martial arts. Go get the God before martial law. Won't lead this earthquake without a flaw. Let the devil feel it. That's a glass jaw. Hook the chin from a southpaw. Then I'm up with God. That's a blast off. I'm saying.
Bars. We got to put that behind some kind of track that you got, bro.
There's a beat for it already.
Oh, I figured as much.
Yes.
I know it's coming, bro. It's coming.
Yo.
Coach Life album coming soon.
Straight up.
Man, this is again, these are always really good pods. I also want to preface with this too before we close out. And I hope everybody understands this. Like, we are not that far away from you guys. Not in the least bit. We struggle with a lot of stuff that you guys are struggling with out there that are listening to this pod. Same things you guys are struggling with, we struggle with those same things as well. Okay, whether it be alcohol, whether it be marijuana, whether it be relationships, whether it be sex, whether it be, being in the Bible consistently, again, we struggle with those same things. There is a difference. There's one key difference though. Is how much you're trying. That's the difference. That's the only difference. How much effort are you putting into trying to be the person that you know you should be versus doing the same things that you've always done? And I believe the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over
and expecting different results.
So if you haven't had the results that you're looking for, look at the habits that you perform. That might be a big indicator of why you haven't had the results you're looking for.
Keep it $150 with you. It's still gonna be the hardest thing you ever did.
Facts.
But the most gratifying thing.
Facts.
The most peaceful thing.
Most peaceful
Facts.
thing. You gotta work for that.
Man.
Nothing worth it come easy.
Not in the least.
So, like the DARE program say, just say no.
If you can't say no, find a community that's gonna help you.
Community.
No.
We're gonna say no together with our arms around you.
Exactly.
Find your tribe.
Find your tribe.
There it is. Because I know when I have those hard moments, it ain't nothing but to send a text message or a phone call to one of these two, and we on a different path right after. So find that group that helps you make the change that you need to make. Because they're out there. You just got to start looking for them. So, again, if you like what you heard, smack that like and subscribe button if you want to hear more from your Coach Life fam. Definitely appreciate all the responses. I think we're at 49 subscribers right now on YouTube right now.
Come on, y'all.
Party once we hit 50. We partying once we hit 50, y'all.
Oh yeah.
We partying on the 50.
Yeah, we definitely gonna turn up. We're gonna be in here, and all that.
And I might there might
give away some merch.
I was about to say there might be a merch drop. we pick a couple people out of this the subscribe list right now and see if we can drop some merch on you for the free. For the free.
Send the address. Shipping and all. We gonna take care of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just send your size, the right size, or the size that you want to be. How about that? Give you
Give you
something to work for.
Yep.
Appreciate it, everybody. Again, if you like what you heard, hit that like, subscribe button. Until the next time, family. Stay positive, my friends.